Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in to the It's Culture podcast. My name is Mark, and we're gonna keep it culture. Thank you for tuning in. If you could, please like, share, and subscribe, and then hit that notification bell so you can get the updates. Help me grow this channel uh, by doing those four things for me. So hit the like button, hit the share button, hit that subscribe button. That's what I want. And hit that notification bell so you can get the updates. Well, we're here tonight, and as promised, is we're going to be discussing some things here tonight. On the agenda, we're going to be talking about Trump and the Supreme Court ruling and what that does as far as the election is concerned. We're going to be talking about a nonprofit director up in Detroit, see what she had going on, and as well as a judge who has been suspended. And we're going to talk about those things. Um, so let's get this off. I'm not going to hold y'all too long tonight. Uh, the Supreme Court today ruled um, in the Trump case involving whether or not the former president should be removed from ballots because of his alleged participation in creating an insurrection. If you all don't know, some states, Illinois and Colorado, as well as Maine, have removed the former president from their ballots. And the Trump campaign decided they were going to challenge this. This made it its way all the way to the Supreme Court. And we're going to show this and show what happened today in this case. And then we're going to talk about the implications of what happened moving forward.
States had tried to keep Trump off their ballots, citing a post-Civil War constitutional provision about office holders who engaged in insurrection. But the Supreme Court sided with Trump in a unanimous decision.
Fox 5's Ashley Rodriguez joins us now with a look at what their ruling means for the upcoming race for the White House. Ash.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court's ruling puts Trump back on the ballot in Colorado, Illinois, and Maine. And this is a big win to kick off a big week for not only Trump's campaign, but for President Biden's as well.
Essentially, you cannot take somebody out of a race because an opponent would like to have it that way.
The Supreme Court ruled unanimously Monday states cannot use a 14th Amendment provision banning insurrectionists to keep a presidential candidate's name off the ballot. The decision comes just in time for Super Tuesday, where voters in Colorado, Maine, and Illinois will now see Trump as an option.
There are, of course, other reasons why he may run into legal and electoral headwinds as a result. But in terms of the disqualification question, that has now been definitively settled for this round.
Trump's legal hurdles continue in Georgia, where he faces an election subversion case brought by Fulton County DA Fani Willis. The public is waiting while a judge is weighing whether she should be removed for a romantic relationship with a prosecutor that could create a conflict of interest.
If she goes, then the question is, who brings the case? Does the case continue?
Over in Florida, the country is also anticipating a ruling in Trump's classified documents case. The judge there is considering a trial date. The special prosecutor, Jack Smith, is pushing for an early July trial date, while Trump's team would like the trial to start after the election. Trump saying Monday the White House is coordinating with state and city DAs to weaponize the Justice Department.
Biden ought to drop all of these things. And frankly, he may do better if he does.
It's a big week for President Biden as well, who is preparing for a State of the Union speech on Thursday. Analysts say to battle Trump's favorable poll numbers, Biden needs to give an energetic speech, not misspeak, and explain how his administration is helping the average American.
That's going to be very important for people who are on the fence about his capacity to govern at this point.
So Super Tuesday tomorrow is pretty much Nikki Haley's last chance to slow Trump's path toward the nomination. Now, in a new CBS News YouGov poll, 52% of voters said they would vote for Trump in the general election, beating Biden by 4 points.
All right. So you saw that Trump has made his way back to the ballot. And yeah, so he's made his way back to that ballot, and he's going to be on the Super Tuesday ballot tomorrow in Illinois, Colorado, and Maine. Now, give a little backstory on what happened. The first state to actually remove him from the ballot was in Colorado. They did it, citing the 14th Amendment, the clause in which if you participate or engage in an insurrection, that you would essentially be ruled ineligible to run for presidential office. Now, what Colorado's argument was yes, we know that the former president has not been formally charged with insurrection. However, he did hold a rally that he told the people, let's go down to the Capitol and show them, basically what time it is. And they felt as if his words created the insurrection. But the Supreme Court today ruled that that was not the case. And you know, usually when you see Supreme Court cases, they usually kind of split amongst the lines. We know that we have a conservative court. It's 6-3. But today, the three liberal judges on the court actually sided with with their conservative friend counterparts, and they ruled as well. So this Supreme Court case was 9-0 in favor of Trump. Let's get that straight. 9-0 that they felt that he needed to be added back to the ballot in those states. So we know that Trump has already won a few primary states already, and it's looking like it's setting up for a November run, a rematch of 2020 all over again. So we'll pay attention to this as it keeps going on. As we get closer and closer to the elections, I start talking more so about politics and how this is going to land. We start looking at some poll numbers and things, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to let the primaries play out and see who comes out victorious. All right, moving on. So we also had this this other case, and out of this one here is weird. So we're just gonna play it, and then we're just gonna talk about it on the other side. So this woman, this is crazy. So let's talk about it.
State Magisterial District Judge Sonia McKnight shot her ex-boyfriend in the head while he slept. He's been left blind in at least one eye, according to authorities. McKnight is accused of attempted murder and aggravated assault. She was unable to post $300,000 bail, according to court records. Police say McKnight's ex-boyfriend had recently broken up with her and wanted her to move out of his Susquehanna Township home. Around 1 a.m. Saturday, police say McKnight's ex-boyfriend awoke with massive head pain and was unable to see. While she allegedly asked him, what did he do to himself? The ex-boyfriend was adamant he did not shoot himself. Police say while calling 911, McKnight could not explain what happened and that she was sleeping and heard him screaming. But investigators came to the conclusion she pulled the trigger.
The location of the wound being one of the big factors here, a gunshot wound to the head pretty clearly gives you a indication of someone's intent. So the charge is appropriate, we believe.
Police said a gun registered by McKnight was used in the shooting and that a license plate reader and Ring doorbell footage contradicted part of McKnight's account of the evening, leading investigators to say her interview was deceptive. Additionally, an investigating officer wrote in charging documents that McKnight tested positive for gunshot residue on her hand. McKnight was already suspended for unrelated reasons prior to this. A state judicial conduct board had alleged a number of counts of misconduct by McKnight that led to her suspension without pay. Tom Lehman,
All right, so here we go. So we have this judge, Sonia McKnight, who has a little history of violence. And it seems like she decided that this was the time. I guess she wanted the relationship to be over with, and decided to shoot her ex-boyfriend while he was sleeping. Now, this is not the first time that this judge has been in trouble for shooting at one of her boyfriends. This is the second time that she's been charged with. The first time it got thrown out, but this time she shot the man while he was sleeping. In his eye, left him blind in his eye. This man was asleep. and you wake up to getting shot. And for her to call the cops screaming, saying that this man shot himself while he was asleep. Uh, this one, we're gonna keep paying attention to this as this case unfolds. But I tell you, it's some sick people out here in this world, and especially because she's a judge. And we already know when, I talked about this in the past. um when we get in positions of power, we have to do what's right when we hold these offices, because we don't hold these offices all the time. And she was an elected judge, meaning that she wasn't appointed. She got elected by her constituents to represent that district judge, that courtship in Pennsylvania, and she just violated her oath, um, just being reckless and out of line, completely out of order. Um, and we'll see what the justice system does with this. Um, they are moving forward, as you can see that she could not post bail, so she's still sitting behind the bars right now while she tried to make this $300,000 bail, so there'll be about 30K on the bail. And maybe, I don't know if she has property that's valued at 300,000 that she can get out on, but right now she's still currently in jail. So we'll be paying attention to this one as it moves forward, and I'll give y'all updates as we keep it going. So to my last uh video for tonight, this one really, really gets to me. And this video, it's about theft. And historically, home ownership amongst Black folks is the lowest of any demographic in the country. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into this home ownership rate that we see amongst Black people here in the country. And it goes all the way back to a time where there were racial covenants. Those were when towns like Levittown, Pennsylvania were created. And they were created uh and they created neighborhoods where they would not sell a house to anyone who was Black. At the time they said Negro, but they wouldn't sell anything to the descendants of slaves at all, at all. And this started way back, way back. We're talking about almost 100 years ago. These racial covenants started showing up. We could actually go back even further to the Randolph Free people when they first moved to Mercer County, Ohio, back in the 1800s. The people there didn't want them in Mercer County, and this kind of went on and went on and went on, and it manifested itself into these racial covenants in towns like Levittown being created. Um, so because of that, Black folks were subjugated into living in areas that we considered red line. And if you don't know what red line communities are, these were the communities where they basically drew a red line around it, literally on the map. And basically, this is where Black folks could live at. And they devalued the property in a way so much that it could not create generational wealth. So these became known as the American ghettos. Some of these areas are still historically Black to this day, and if the ones that are not still historically Black, those have been gentrified because of this reverse white flight back into the cities that has been happening over the last 20 years. Um, so in Detroit, Detroit is known right now as the housing market boom. Like if you want to invest in property, you want to get your hands involved in real estate and flipping properties, Detroit is the place to be when it comes to that right now. There are so many vacant homes all throughout the city. There's this vacant lots, there are vacant streets on the east side of town, Wisher and uh off of Jefferson. Like, if you really know Detroit, if you've been to the east side of Detroit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, there's literally blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks of just empty streets with no houses that they have just bulldozed and took down. So the city's under this revitalization thing, and there's a lot of people coming in to invest in houses, and those who have their houses are running into situations where they may lose their houses. Now we know Back in 2008, we had a housing crisis where a lot of banks were found to have fraudulently signed over these loans. Especially, they were targeting Black folks. Wells Fargo was one. They got in a lot of trouble for this, but they got bailed out. The people didn't get bailed out, but the banks did. And these people lost their houses because of subprime mortgages, and these are what they consider adjustable rate mortgages, where basically you would pay like this low rate for like 5 years. And the idea, the concept was, okay, if there 5 years, you get all this equity in this house and then you sell it for a profit. Well, the housing market, the housing bubble crashed right while a lot of these Black people who had got these subprime mortgages were either trying to sell their houses, or they were going into these mortgage these rate loans where the rate just kept changing every month. One month it might have been 1,500. The next month you're paying 2,000. The next month you might be paying 2,500. And people couldn't keep up with these adjustable rate mortgages, and so because they adjust how the market adjusts. And a lot of people lost their houses. A lot of these neighborhoods end up being vacant. And there was this, like, around 2010, it was like this massive wave of people left Michigan, especially in the Detroit area, left. Black folks left and went elsewhere. And now you have all these houses. So this company that this woman works for is a nonprofit. Their job was to try to keep people in their houses who may be struggling. They work to help them keep their houses. So we're gonna watch the video and then we'll discuss a little bit on the other side.
The Detroit nonprofit is accused of preying on low-income residents and stealing their homes.
Federal officials say more than 30 houses in Wayne County, primarily in Detroit, were impacted by this scheme that targeted those at risk of facing tax foreclosure.
CBS News Detroit's Andres Gutierrez is at the U.S. District Courthouse with reaction.
According to the federal complaint, the FBI started looking into Zenia Thomas, director of homeownership programs at the United Community Housing Coalition, last November, when a special unit within Wayne County suspected she was filing fraudulent quitclaim deeds and falsifying documents.
This is a pervasive crime that occurs. The problem is that the entry level for the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice is higher than the typical fraud that occurs.
But in this case, federal investigators discovered Thomas allegedly conspired to steal over 30 properties from low-income residents. Here's how the feds say the scheme worked. Thomas allegedly filed a number of phony deeds who would then transfer the target properties from the victim owners to interim owners who didn't exist before ultimately selling the house to unsuspecting third parties.
And you seemingly have a number of people who are unindicted co-conspirators. Those are people who are typically cooperating. There's also, I'm sure, other people who will be interviewed and will either cooperate or not.
The United Community Housing Coalition says they're cooperating with the investigation and the individuals involved have been suspended.
It's just disheartening that an employee of a nonprofit would, take advantage of their position.
Other housing advocates say this is an isolated incident that casts a shadow on their mission to help the community.
This happens, unfortunately, and mostly to vulnerable people, either economically disadvantaged, senior citizens. Right? We see a lot of times that these kind of crimes happen to disadvantaged people, but there are a lot of organizations out here that are doing good.
The United Community Housing Coalition works with the city of Detroit, who said in a statement they're aware of the investigation for several months and don't believe it has affected the quality service the city of Detroit is receiving from UCHC in our Right to Counsel and other programs. In Detroit, Andres Gutierrez, CBS News, Detroit.
Just a shame. Just a shame. So to kind of break down this situation, this nonprofit's job is to keep people from being able to foreclose. They provide like short-term like grants and stuff like that, and assistance to help people stay in their houses. That's what you want. We have similar programs like that in Ohio. There's a judge here, Stephanie Mingo. She does this in her courtroom where people come in with these violations and codes and stuff, and she works with contractors throughout the city to kind of take care of these things, these issues pro bono, to keep these people in their houses so they're not getting fined. A lot of times what happens is people get behind on their property taxes. If they own the house, they can't pay the property taxes. And so what the city does is they're foreclosed on the house because of the property taxes. So what someone can do is you could go down to your probate court, grab the list of the houses that are in this foreclosure, and you could actually essentially wait, because when the property comes up, they'll make an announcement. You could literally sit on the court steps at 12 p.m. I know in Georgia and in Ohio you could do this. Sit on the steps at 12 o'clock, make it bid on that house, and if nobody comes to challenge it, because basically they're making it available to the public, nobody challenges it, you can make this and then make this offer, get it paid off, pay off the property taxes, and they will sign the deed over to you. And then you become the owner of that property. Now, there is a time limit for when you do it, that the owners of the property can come back and basically pay you and get the house back. But what this lady was doing, she wasn't doing that. She was creating fake people. So she would basically get the deed, come up with a quick deed, put somebody's name on it, challenge it, win it, take the house, and then sell it for profit right from up under these people's noses. And she did this over 30 times. So she's facing a slew of charges when it comes to this. And hopefully she be held accountable, because this is just absolutely criminal. You're taking advantage of people who are already financially struggling, struggling financially to stay in their houses, and then a nonprofit that's supposed to be helping them, in your capacity, you're turning around and making, criminal acts on behalf of your nonprofit. And I'm glad that they terminated the lady, and hopefully Wayne County Sheriff as well as Detroit Police take care of this woman. I know she's already been arrested for this. And I know it's an FBI probe is investigating this as well. So hopefully justice will be done in this case, and those people will be able to, because they got a long road ahead. If y'all don't know, going through probate court is not something easy. Some of these people are gonna have to be challenging this stuff. This is like a nightmare waiting to happen, and it is very, very unfortunate that we have Black folks out here that are doing this harm to other Black folks. Not saying that anybody should be doing this to Black folks, but particularly Black people who we already know the circumstances, already know what's going on, and you're using your nonprofit to basically steal property from people and sell it. That this is absolutely criminal. So but let's get the comments, hit the comments, let's get this convo started. Thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. Like I said at the beginning, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Help me grow it. To those who have came on board and subscribe, I thank you. For those of y'all who watch the videos, thank you. If there is any anything that happens across the country that you want me to talk about, you see where you can reach me at. You can follow me on Twitter at, X as it's called now, or Instagram at M_Stevenson78. And I'll also leave a link to the email address where you can send me articles that you want me to discuss and get my take on it. So until then, until the next time, keep it culture. Thank you all for tuning in.